text. We normally use what? mtext, right? Okay. Text created with the mtext command cannot have thickness assigned to it. In addition, only acad.shx fonts. Now, that's any SHX font. I have had varying results with SHX fonts because we have an architectural.shx font. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt on what's going on with that. So in essence, dtext, have to use it. You're going to assign thickness through the properties dialog box, and it has to be an SHX font. Now, to further quantify, this is really not 3D text. It appears 3D. So therefore, it's good if you're using the pictorial view and you want your text to kind of match your orientation. It'll look good. Okay. So you can use it for that method. Now, there is another way to use text in a three-dimensional method, and I'll talk about that as soon as we're done. Okay, so if you would, just open any template. You're going to want one of your templates that have your Mech1 dimension style. And just create, if you would, in there a quick solid. It can be a rectangle, a wedge, whatever you wish it to be. I'm just going to make I'll just draw a P line to get a different shape. Okay, so you're sitting with some solid on you. Does anybody need more time? Raise your hand.
Is that what you were doing?
What's that?
Doesn't matter what you do.
Nope. Okay. Now we're going to create some 3D looking text because let's say I want to throw this in an isometric view for a meeting where I need a quick pictorial view to discuss the object, right? I have real good use of that. So I want a little text to go on this. Keep in mind that I can use just standard mtext and it's going to appear. It's going to do all that. But I wanted to match my view that I'm going to pull out. And in this case, maybe I'm going to go with this isometric view that I'm going to use for my meeting. Now, I might want to put some text on here just for a label or a title or something of that nature. So I'm going to run back to my front view, which is this view, and I'm going to use dtext. Now, on your annotate ribbon, if you go to your annotate ribbon, right here is your mtext, which is this capital A that appears when we're doing 2D drawing. It was on the home ribbon and besides the annotate. There's a little drop-down box here that will allow you to toggle between mtext and dtext. Or MT is mtext, DT is dtext. Remember what dtext is. It's single line text. You need to make sure you have a style that is using an SHX font. And that's why I asked you to open a template. Mine's called CSI1, but it's using the simplex.shx font. Okay. So here I'm just going to type DT for dtext. It's going to ask you for a point on the screen. And then just follow the prompts down on the command line. Okay, it asks for a rotation angle. In this case, I'm just going to leave it at 0, so I hit enter. Now it's into your text. And I'm going to type my text. It's an Acme Park. And then just, once you've typed it, click outside of it and then escape to get out of dtext. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need the properties dialog box up, if you do not have it. Select your text. All that comes up in your properties dialog box. What you're looking for is at the very top under the general, it's got this little thickness deal. Okay. Click into that and apply a thickness to the text, please.
What's the thickness? 25 or?
Yeah, give it a thickness, just pick one, you'll see what happens. Don't pick 0.00001. You may not see that. So I'm just going to type in 0.25. Now I'm going to tilt that thing up and you can see what it did to my text. You won't be able to see it if you are still perpendicular to your UCS and that piece of text. You got to tilt it up. And you should now see something like this. Did you get it in? You can say, moving on. Okay. All right, you see how that works? Does anybody not get it to work? This, you got it? Okay. This is not a 3D item, folks. It's just text that's been given a thickness. Now, probably the biggest reason to use text when you are doing 3D modeling is to emboss a part or something. Maybe we want to stamp it with our company logo, something of that nature, right? And we can use that with CNC machinery. That's not going to work with this. It will not subtract or add to a solid. So you can't make it part of the solid. This is for display purposes only. Now, what happens if you do want to take your part and I do want to emboss it? You know, maybe I come in and I want the patent number on here or the part number. I mean, you've all seen things like that where that's engraved into an object or embossed, where engraved is it's put into the surface, embossed it's added to the surface. Okay, how would you go about doing that? Well, you can't use this. You have to physically go draw your letters. Now, one thing that will work great for you is that on the home ribbon, remember that poly-solid? Right here? This is, in essence, how almost everybody I've seen do this uses. Okay. So poly-solid. And let me just show you how I'd real quickly do that one. I'm going to grab poly-solid. I'm going to set my width to whatever I want it to be. So I'm going to set it pretty small because this is a fairly small part and I don't want my text to overwrite everything. So I'm going to use 0.05 as my width. And I better go even smaller than that. I'm going to go 0.005 for width. Then for your height, again, choose a fairly small number. I'll do 0.005 again. Now I'm just going to draw my text. So let's see, I'm doing Acme, right? So just going to come in here. I got to get back to my UCS, sorry. And I'm not going to take the time to make this perfect. Looks like Wile E. Coyote wrote that one. Greatest cartoons ever made, known to man. Okay, now this is a solid. I can now take this, move it onto a surface, and add it or subtract it from that surface. So I can just come in here real quickly and do a move on this character. Don't want this one. Put it over here on the surface. Now I got to switch to my right side view. I probably should have set elevation next first, but I never. Let's get rid of this guy. Here it is right here. I'll just move that slightly into my surface. I only got one letter there. And then I'll subtract it. I got the E in one of the things. I just, let me undo it and select the same route. There. Okay, so I'll do a move. I want all of that. And I'll just move it that much, and it will subtract, and I should have it all embossed. Now that's physically part of it. Okay. So I could have unioned it and added it to it if I wished to. So of course, now if you're doing this, you're using polysolid, you're going to have to figure out heights, get yourself some construction lines, figure out what type of font you want it to look like, whether it's a technical Gothic or whatever, and then mimic it and draw it using solids. Can you do your letters with lines and extrude them? Yeah, you can do it that way too. Okay, polysolid just gets you a quick box. All right, kind of straightforward. In essence, 3D text, you still have to go back and draw each individual component. Keep in mind when you are doing letters, like with polysolid and some of these others, if you want it to work, can I do a letter that does this and sweep along a path or something? No, you can't. Remember, you can't take a solid and sweep it to itself. So it would come to here. Maybe it might make it through there, but then it's not going to come back here and occupy the same space. So you have to leave a little breaks. In fact, you'll see that if you grab any metal part that has it, there's little, it looks kind of like their old Roman text or calligraphy where they always leave little gaps in between these different components of letters. That in 3D, that's why we do it. Not that that text and font was originally defined that way. Okay, any questions on that? All right, dimensioning in text. Okay. This is picked up in chapter 13, and the author talks about it starting on page 334 and goes on. Now, most of the stuff he's talking about here is meant for printing out of model space. Okay, so he talks about dimensioning here in more of an isometric type mode, where we dimension and then oblique it to the angle that we wish. But how do you get it to read? Because dim diameter won't read a negative cylinder. Okay? It doesn't really know there's a circle there. Okay? So you have to use M liter for all your liters for the most part. And additionally, when you come into here and then you try and print this out of Paperspace, which is our main printing platform, you're going to find none of these dimensions show up. Because in ViewBase, it doesn't recognize two-dimensional line work. Just to give you a quick example of that, I'm going to real quickly throw my guy out on the front view, this object here. Now I can come in here and real quickly come in and do some dimensioning. So, what's that?
It's still on the book.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I went in, flipped myself to my view and said, okay, here's my front view, now I now need to start giving heights. And I think you're actually gonna like the end result of this. Now, keep in mind, I still need DSFs, I still need to know scales so that I place everything correct, but it will still snap to vertices and I can do all of that here. It's drawn primarily in the 0 plane, but not always, because when I snapped on this object, did I snap on this front corner? And the front corner here? I don't know, really don't. I could have snapped on the front and then the back corner up here. A lot of times on solids, you have that happen to you. There's really no solution to it other than just checking after you do it. Okay, well, this one I think is reading correct, but yep. Now, when I go to Paperspace and print this, so I'm just going to real quickly jump to Paperspace. Remember, I'm going to delete my viewport, go to my layout ribbon, and use ViewBase on this object. So I'll throw it there, and I'll do a 3 view on it. Okay. Well, where are my dimensions? They're not here. So in essence, what do I have to do again? Now, I've got to dimension it again in Paperspace if I'm going to use this printing media. And in essence, we have to. The ViewBase is where AutoCAD's going. This actually just came about 4, maybe 5 versions ago. Didn't work real well till about 2 versions ago, and it works pretty flawlessly now. So in essence, where do we dimension? We dimension in Paperspace. So don't even put any dimensions in model space. The only thing in model space is your model, is your solid. And then I come here and dimension. Now, there's one difference between dimensioning in Paperspace and model space. There's no scaling here. None at all. Now, we can still scale these objects, correct? Remember how to do that?
Down arrow.
Yeah, I just grab usually the main one, grab it and set it like 1 to 2. All right. So, let me just move all these things in here. I like my little Acme sign. Okay. So I put them here. Now again, all I'm going to do here is dimension. I'm going to do it on, let me do it on the 0 layer so my dimensions appear black here. So I'll go to the annotate ribbon and I'm dimensioning just like normal now, except this is a scale of 1 to 2. Normally, I would take, my DSF is 2. Now, instead of my first one being a 1/2 inch off, it's 1 inch off, right? We're reapplying the DSFs. In Paperspace, these are already scaled. Everything else is 1 to 1. There is no DSF. So if I want this a 1/2 inch off, I just take it a 1/2 inch off. If I want to draw an arrowhead that's a 1/4 inch, I don't apply a DSF. I just treat it, everything as 1 to 1. Okay. But it's actually much easier, isn't it? Okay. So I can go ahead and just dimension this thing as is. I just come in here and say, okay, well, you're a 1/2 inch off, and then let's do whatever you've got to do. If you would, take your solid, slip it to your front view, whatever view you want that to be, jump to Paperspace, delete your viewport, run the ViewBase, apply a couple of dimensions to it. again, flip your UCS and model to whatever you want your front view to be. Jump to your layout, delete your viewport. Go to the layout ribbon. Choose your view base from model space. Throw a couple of views out. Apply a couple dimensions to it. How does AutoCAD know what the dimension is? It's reading the model. Okay, so whatever the model is.